I'm joined now live by constitutional attorney and George Law School professor Leslie Jacobs to discuss the other implications of a potential end to Roe. Welcome back to Fox 40 News at 11.
Happy to be here.
We have visited many times about the possibility of that Mississippi case at hand, Dobbs versus Jackson's Women's Health, to overturn Roe. First, let's review some of the law at work here. There are rights that we enjoy that are in the actual text of the U.S. Constitution, like the right to bear arms, and then there are others that we take kind of for granted, like the right to marry, that are created by the implied right to privacy and substantive due process. Kind of walk us through how that works, please.
Well, sure. Judges interpret very few words in the Constitution. And so right to bear arms is there, but it's not even clear exactly what it means. Same thing with free speech, same thing with religious liberty. And so with the right to abortion and many other rights, they hinge on the word liberty, that a person has a right to liberty and states can't deny it. And so that's where we get the right to abortion and other rights.
With this shocking leak about the work of the court, and you know it intimately because you clerked for former Justice Powell, everyone is focused on the abortion procedure itself, but other procedures like in vitro fertilization or IVF could be affected. Since becoming available in the U.S., it's been very common for 10 eggs to be harvested as someone tries to become pregnant, and then some of the eventual embryos are frozen for later attempts at implantation. But that freezing could be considered murder and become illegal if each embryo is deemed to be a human life worthy of legal protection.
Well, what we'd be talking about here, if this opinion becomes law, then what would happen is states would have the ability to prohibit abortion, but it wouldn't prohibit abortion across the nation. And so when you're talking about in vitro, states would have the ability to make laws having to do with that, but it's not clear that they would do it.
Exactly. A lot of the pushback over what it seems the Supreme Court has been couched by female protesters saying men need to get their hands off their laws, off women's bodies. But if abortion rights disappear at the federal level, the right to access contraception could also disappear for men and women, right? Falling again under this whole notion of privacy and what a state would choose to do.
Well, the Supreme Court would have to interpret the Constitution and overrule its precedent in other ways to get rid of a right to access contraception. We've also got the right to rear and educate your kids. We've got the right against being sterilized. We've got the right to marry and the right to refuse life-saving treatments. All of these, and actually the right that some people say should be there to not have mandatory vaccines. Those would all be located, and currently are, except for the vaccines, in the liberty provision, that word in the Constitution. So we would have to have further movement by the court in reinterpreting the meaning of the Constitution and overruling existing precedent.
But the reversal of Roe could be a first step since it's also tied to liberty.
Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, it's chipping away at an interpretation of the meaning of liberty. And obviously, if the 5 members of the court can choose to do this, they can choose to reinterpret other meanings of liberty and overrule other precedent.
Over the last few years, we've seen the erosion of revered norms and standards throughout the highest level of our government and political system. Now with this leak of a draft opinion, that touching the sort of sacrosanct nature of the workings of the Supreme Court, court composition-wise, would we be here today on the eve of possible reversal of Roe if Mitch McConnell hadn't been successful in denying President Obama his pick for the Supreme Court, Merrick Garland, and diverting from what isn't law, but it kind of always been procedure for a sitting president and not the incoming one to get the pick after a justice had passed away?
Would we be here as far as a opinion that was going to overrule Roe versus Wade? It looks like we wouldn't be because, in fact, Justice Roberts voted, I believe, with the dissenters here. And so a different justice in that position would have made a difference.
Okay. And is there a way to get back, do you think, to that sacred feel of confidentiality and respect around the inner workings of the highest court in the land after what some believe was a political move Monday night? Or is that kind of reverence just kind of now gone forever?
Well, we have to keep in mind that it was one person or maybe some small group of persons that made the decision to leak this draft opinion, and we really don't know why that person did it. I have a hard time understanding the strategy if you oppose the draft opinion to leak it. because it seems like it will solidify the position of those justices who have voted for it. But at the same time, who knows? But it's just a few people who did this. And to say that that's eroding the norms of the court, I don't think that's true. I think it's the behavior of the court that people are perceiving, and by the court, I mean the justices, that they are perceiving as eroding the norms.
And of course, we will all have to wait and see. Obviously, the justices put a tremendous amount of work and thought into coming up with a draft opinion. We all know it's not final. A lot of people believe it's unlikely to change, and any of the protests that's happening unlikely to change opinions. But as you mentioned, we never know. We'll all have to wait and watch. Thank you so much for your insight this morning.
Thank you for having me.